you look so busy. Just explain to us the different roles you're playing in the bigger group.
So I've got very involved in industry. So I co-chair the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa, and I co-chair the International Consumer Goods Forum. And as an industry, we are probably one of the biggest employers in the world, and we're the biggest employer probably in South Africa as well. And we need to be involved in global issues. So at the International Consumer Goods Forum level, we look at areas such as sustainability, food safety, food security, social contracts around child labour, forced labour, those sort of issues, refrigeration, different environmental issues. And so we set a global agenda, and then we take that global agenda and I drive it into the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa. So we're now trying to set a standard within the South African, and we're now trying to move it up Africa as well, to set a standard, say what is best practice for what's good for the consumer, what's good for the industry, what's good for the planet, and make sure that we actually, as an industry, are creating positive outcomes for the planet as a whole. And then we encourage the companies that are members of those organizations to incorporate those principles into the way they operate as businesses. So I'm helping drive the global agenda through to the regional, then obviously down into a specific company thing. Because if we don't do that as an industry, I think you're going to see too much waste. You know, there's about 60% of all food produced in Africa doesn't hit the table. And globally, it's about 40 to 50% of food is wasted. And, you know, if we can cut food waste by half without increasing any more agricultural production, we can basically feed the world, just dealing with food waste. And it applies in a whole lot of different areas. By looking where palm oil comes from, you'll save the forests of Borneo, Malaysia, by looking for sustainable palm oil. If you watch soya, you're then saving forests in Brazil. And so everything that we deal with as an industry is interlinked. You know, beef, cattle produce more methane than the entire transport industry in the world. So I think all the planes, all the cars and everything, the cattle produce more methane, which has a big impact on global warming, which has a big impact on climate change, which has a big impact on everything that we do. So if we as an industry can start working at those very basic levels and come back to food waste, the amount of methane that's produced by rotting food is huge and has a big impact on climate change. So it's all interlinked. And I think as business people, we need to make sure that we are taking responsibility for the impact we have on the planet, and at the same time being able to interface with government to make sure that laws and regulations that are put in place actually look after the macro agenda, not necessarily a narrow political agenda.
I think, if I understand it right as well, if you think of corporate responsibility, for years it was helping the poor, only that. And all of a sudden, you realize now it's helping the planet. Is so much more. Never forget about the people. But it's the planet. We can't lose water. We can't lose the planet. Absolutely. And that changes the whole perspective.
Yeah. That's absolutely. And it comes back to the pick and pay second value of doing good is good business. It's absolutely part of our DNA as a company to do all of those issues, and to then make sure that we get involved on a global basis as well, to make sure that we can add our bits to helping save the world.
Great. So thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thank you.